Quick, guys, I want to run with you. I want to run through with you the module here. We are coming to the end. Okay, it's not going to look exactly like this, but as you can see, we are finishing up the chapter. All right, I did publish the exam, which you guys already saw. I might adjust the point system here just because I like to look over the test and change things up a bit. Right, so the points might not exactly be 139, but it's going to be around there. All right, the map. Don't forget about the map. Yeah. Yeah, so just remember to look over the map, prepare yourself for next Tuesday. So you got a whole week now, right? I said for Friday we're gonna have the exam, but since I won't be here Thursday, Friday, I'm just gonna push it back. Okay, I'm gonna finish up this chapter today and tomorrow. Right, Thursday I'm gonna have an assignment on the Treaty of Versailles. Okay, the Treaty of Versailles, which ends the war, but not really. Which we'll talk about it. It's going to be a leading cause to World War II. So this treaty doesn't really solve things at all. And you'll read more about it on Thursday. All right, Friday. So pay attention. Friday, I'm going to put out the study guide. Okay. And the vocab assignment, I'm going to publish that today. Right? Brody, what'd you do? Huh? What? Jeez, dude. All right, I'm going to publish that study, the vocab assignment. The Quizlet and the Booklet's going to be attached. So you guys can study that once you're finished with the study guide, right? Obviously, behave for the sub. And on Tuesday, when you guys come back, right? Because Monday you don't have school. Tuesday, when you guys come back, we'll have the test. Okay? All right, perfect. So just want to show you guys real quick the module and what we're finishing up with. All right, here's your bell ringer for today. So, explain the significance of the Russian Revolution. Again, I lumped the two together. I know there's technically two revolutions, but I'm just putting them together. And within your response, detail the end of Tsarist Russia, the Romanov dynasty, and the beginning of the USSR. So, there's a lot to it. When you think about the dynamics of World War One, the Allied powers are now transitioning, right? They got to do without Russia now on the Eastern Front. So Germany looks like they're gaining somewhat of a benefit here, a leg up. But in all reality, the United States joins that very same year. So, well, we're the Allied powers and still got to fight on. Okay, but anyway, I wanted to mention a little bit about that. The term yesterday, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Okay, make sure you remember that term. Okay, we're going to mention a lot about that here in the next chapter and the following chapter with World War II. All right, that's going to lead to a lot of tensions between the Soviet Union and Germany and how this war, World War II, starts. Okay, so I want to review that with you guys for sure. Don't let me forget about that treaty. And we'll move in here to the end of World War One. All right, so I'll give you guys some time. Oh, think about Rasputin too. Or early. Not too long, over there. And girls, chicks. Needing more help. I mean, I guess you gotta get the text on down all first day. Cool. You guys ready to do that musical here? No.
There was a shooting
Next spiritual. Because you two said something. All right, here we go. I guess we'll finish up. So, the Russian Revolution. Again, where was Vladimir Lenin as this war was raging on in Europe? Where was Lenin at? Jason.
Separated from Russia in exile.
Yes, good. Right. So, because of these radical ideals, right? These ideas that would literally tear down any government, right? When you think about communism, you think about these ideas of communism. It promotes rebellion. It promotes anarchy. It promotes chaos. Okay, that's literally defined as a Marx and Engels wording, right? With the Communist Manifesto. So, in other words, a lot of these nations here in Europe do not want these ideologies to tear down their government, to tear down their country, right? One thing that Marx and Engels really didn't think about, though, is that nationalism did kind of just totally rip up their book, rip up their work, right? This national pride, right? No one really thought that this would be something that people engaged in, and this patriotic sense, right? Of people during this time period kind of put to bed this idea of communism, right? In the Communist Manifesto, right? And it's one of those things, again, that, well, with the chaos of World War I, these ideals start to pop up again, right? When you have a war, a conflict like this, when people are suffering, and let's face it, right? All of Europe with the Industrial Revolution before the war, well, their lives were getting a lot better, right? There was products and goods and services that no one's ever had before. But where wasn't it happening? What country in Europe was not industrialized? Which country in Europe was not really modernizing at all? Eli? Yes, Russia. I feel like that was just like, oh, put me on the spot here. All right, yeah, Russia was falling way behind. So if these ideals, if this version of government would succeed anywhere, it had to be Russia. Okay, anyway, so fast forward here. Like I mentioned, during the war, Vladimir Lenin was in prison. All right, Germany, as this war was prolonging, right, as they're fighting a two-front war, and it's now at this point, 1917, there's obviously motivations for the United States to join on the Allied power side. So Germany realized they got to do something, right? They can try to even the odds somewhat, right? They try to eliminate the Eastern Front. So they decide to unleash, let go Vladimir Lenin to Russia in 1917 around to start this revolution. And it happens. It works, right? Russia goes through this revolution. All right, so I know I talked about it yesterday. Before the war even, World War I, right? Russia went to war with someone else, and they were humiliated, defeated, right? What country did they lose to in a conflict in the early 1900s? Awesome. Japan, good job. And I know we didn't focus on Japan much, but they're rising as a world power. They're rising as an industrial power, a military power, right? And this is going to lead directly into what we know World War II down the line. Okay, so don't forget about them. They're still there. They're growing. They're imperializing a lot of lands in Asia, Southeast Asia, right? So I just want to give you guys a little bit of a side story there, right? A side lesson. Anyways, Russia, as they're defeated by Japan, they're a laughing stock. Okay. Again, their people are still starving, right? There's still a lot of devastation in Russia, and people start to lose respect, lose any type of connection with Tsar Nicholas II. All right, what happens to the Romanov family? What happens to them? Luna, go ahead. Yeah, it's good, right? So as the Bolshevik Revolution takes off, right, this communist supporting group, right, led by Vladimir Lenin. Again, I'm lumping the two together, so I just want to give you guys a heads up on that. As Lenin takes control here of the Bolshevik movement, right, they take the Romanov dynasty, the Romanov family, and put it to an end. Right, they killed them by firing range. And we talked about some of the stories,
conspiracies of Anastasia getting away. In reality, she did not, right? She did not. Anyway, brought on a lot of unique stories that people still cherish. Musical, there you go, awesome. With that being said, what about Rasputin? What do we know about Rasputin? Brody, you know all about this guy. What do you know about this man? He's a ladies' man, sure, yes, yes. He's this voodoo magic mystic man, right? Anyway, at the time of the early 1900s, late 1800s, okay, when you think about the Romanov family and their children, they were sick. Their immune systems were very weak. They needed someone to help them out. And modern day medicine really didn't hit Russia at the time. So they asked Rasputin to stay with them, right? You got to imagine this crazy, weird, strange looking man, Rasputin, is about like 6'5", 6'6". He was huge. He looked very strange. And he was getting this awesome lifestyle, living with the Tsar family. So the people of Russia who were starving on the streets see this crazy man who's drinking every day, eating all the finest foods, and living the high life. Well, people start to get a little angry. Come on, you gotta pay attention. All right, so with that, people were angry about it. And we mentioned some of the stories about his death, where they tried to poison him. He fought it off. He literally got shot in the forehead, right? Fought it off somehow, some way. Anyway, they finally killed him then by throwing him into a river. And he died of hypothermia, drowning, right? As they picked him up miles out down the river. So, in other words, there's a lot of fascinating stories about Rasputin. And yeah, somehow, because he didn't bathe, he was stinky, he was gross looking. The girls still loved him, right, Brody? Yeah, weird. Anyway, there's a lot of fascination around it. That's why it's interesting to talk about. I mean, we could talk about it for weeks, this Russian Revolution, and the stories around Rasputin and the Tsar. But we're just going to move on. Anyway, with that, as World War I is coming to a close, well, Russia leaves the conflict. So what happens? If you leave the war, you got to give up land, don't you? Yes, right? So the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which I didn't really talk about too much yesterday, this solidifies peace between Germany and Russia, right? So real quick, at the end of this war, before even World War I's coming to a close on the Western Front, the Eastern Front is done with, okay? So Russia loses a lot of land here in Eastern Europe. So as you're looking at it, let's just see what this looks like. And I don't really have a map to show you up here. It's limited, but Germany is going to gain a lot of land way out here, okay? Way out here in Eastern Europe. Okay, Russia is going to move back. So when you think about a lot of the Eastern European countries like Poland, Poland, that's going to be formed here after World War I. Well, that belonged to Germany for just a little bit of time, right? And then the Treaty of Versailles comes and, well, nope, it's not yours anymore, Germany, because they lose the war. So Germany has a lot of land here, a lot of territory, a lot of pride at stake, right? So this land, just at the end, right before World War I comes to a close, is Germany's, and then as the Treaty of Versailles comes around, it gets taken away from, right? And Poland forms, right? A lot of these Eastern European countries form right here in this area. So when we get to World War II, who do you think wants this land back? It was once Russia, they want it back, right? It was once Germany's just for a little bit of time, they want it back. So this is going to be an area of contention, right? Right here where modern day Poland is. And guess what invasion starts World War II? The invasion of Poland. Crazy. Crazy, I know. And we're already setting the stages here for World War II. So that's why many historians kind of link the two conflicts together. Just say it was one long running war, just with a brief period of time where they had somewhat of a ceasefire, which is kind of true. All right, here we go. Let's get to it. Here are your terms for today. I'm just going to scroll down to see how many more we got. Well, this is it. This is it. So you can see we're coming to the end of the chapter. All right, so Russia then becomes the Soviet Union. I just want to let you guys know that. All right, so the Soviet Union, the first communistic state. And is that going to cause some problems here for the United States down the line? Yep. As we know, the Red Scare is going to take off. We have a new enemy here in the United States, and that's going to be the Soviet Union. Then we get to World War II, we team up with them. I know it sounds strange. Then after World War II, they're the enemy again. So, well,
You can see it's back and forth constantly. All right, so we got Armistice Day, Veterans Day, which you all should know that day already. We celebrated it here in class. We focused the whole day on it. On what's the date there for Veterans Day? What is it? What's the date? Calvin? Yes, good job, November 11th. Good, good. All right, the Compiègne wagon. There's an interesting story around this rail car, around this this wagon that they call it. It's a rail car, right? That this solidifies the end of World War One, where the armistice is signed. Real quick, that rail car is going to pop up again in World War Two. Okay, I'll give you a little bit of a backstory here, right? Hitler, in revenge, right, decides to take this rail car that's been put in a museum right near Compiègne, where this armistice in World War One was signed. Guess what this son of a gun does? He orders his men to take this rail car out of the museum nearby and put in the exact same spot when he gets his revenge and takes over France, right, when we get to the 1940s, okay? In other words, this rail car has a lot of history to it, a lot of history. And between France and Germany, this rivalry, it doesn't come to an end, right? So I'll mention more about this rail car when we get closer into World War II, the start of World War II, and how when Germany takes over France, okay? Anyway, the Treaty of Versailles is going to be an important treaty here that ends the war, kinda. It was a total flop, a failure. The reason for it is because we see World War II, right? So the Treaty of Versailles, even though this was a way to try to end World War One, put an end to the conflict, it doesn't go that way, right? Like I mentioned, many historians try to lump the two wars together, just say there was a brief ceasefire in between them, which there kind of was. And the Treaty of Versailles is going to put an end to the conflict for a bit of time, and we'll see World War II start. In all reality, it doesn't work. The biggest thing here to write for the Treaty of Versailles, right? Make sure you guys write this down, is that it punishes Germany, right? And we'll mention about these punishments here, probably more tomorrow, okay? When it comes to reparations, when it comes to what Germany has to do here moving forward after World War One. You gotta imagine, France and Great Britain, do you think they want to see this big bully on the playground, Germany, anymore? No, they don't want to see this military power rise again. Well, we all know it does, but with the Treaty of Versailles is trying to handcuff Germany, right? Blame them for the war, make them pay these reparations that they wouldn't pay off. Listen to this, until 2010. Crazy, right? So 1918 to 2010, a long time to pay off these penalties for World War One. Anyway, Wilson's 14 points. So Woodrow Wilson, towards the end of his presidency, towards the end of his life, he was kind of losing it. He was, unfortunately. So his mindset really wasn't there, right? Maybe, just maybe, he didn't have a stroke, right, before 1918. Chances are we would have saw a better ending to this conflict. Maybe we would have saw a prevention of the United States, World War II. Anyway, he does come up with a good idea of the League of Nations, but we don't join. So he comes up with the idea that we should have an international body to talk about certain issues, concerns, before a war breaks out. And Congress decides, no, we're not going to join into that. This is a great idea, but the U.S. should not belong. And we'll mention more about these ideas here more tomorrow. Anyway, I do want to talk a little bit about the ending of the war and how this comes to a close and what pain. No, I do not. All right, so the battles here. I used to do a project where you research the battle, but since World War One's a bigger chapter, we got to get through a lot more content here. I'm going to keep it moving. The biggest thing to know is that as the Western Front is still in trench warfare, still in a stalemate, right? Especially now, after the Eastern Front comes to a close, Russia leaves, it seems that Germany might have a second win, right? It seems like Germany might actually have the motivation to win this thing, maybe, who knows? But the United States comes in and saves the day. Right, like I mentioned, did a lot of the German troops on the Eastern Front make it to the Western Front? Did they? Chase, did they? No, why not? Did they have to walk through their own country to get over there? Yeah, so a lot of the troops just said, I'm going home. I'm done with this war.
All right, they also heard about the devastation on the Western Front. They heard about the new innovations, new weapons, which you guys all researched, right? So they weren't too particularly happy, motivated to continue this fight. All right, so there you go. There's some of the battles. The United States, again, we were not prepared whatsoever. Again, like I mentioned, John Blackjack Pershing, he tried to keep us out of the conflict as long as possible. Right? The British, the French generals are saying, hey, we need them now, right? We need these doughboys to continue to help us to fight, right? And this morale and confidence, that's what's going to win the war. Again, it's not like we go over there and whoop some butt. It's just we have the sheer numbers, but more importantly, we have the resources, the materials, and food, the food, right? That's going to help us win the war. And that's what does it. Also, Germany, just sick and tired of fights. So it comes to a close. All right, so the end of the war in Europe. Like I mentioned, the United States is just a final push, right? Realizing that Germany just can't win it, right? Now, the Allied powers with the United States has an unlimited amount of food, an unlimited amount of resources and weapons. Even though they're outdated, they have an unlimited amount of it because US is the strongest industrial power at this moment, at this time, right? So it's just overwhelming for them. Even though Russia left, just the odds were totally against Germany. Anyway, with that being said, here's a great picture, political cartoon that emphasizes the end of World War I. All right, so who's this? What kind of soldier is this right here? Luna? A Hun, good job, a German soldier, right? This would probably be more like a German general. It kind of looks like the Iron Chancellor, doesn't it? It kind of looks like Otto von Bismarck in a way. And maybe, just maybe, I know he's been dead at this point for a few years, obviously, but right? This was maybe emphasizing this look of Bismarck and what Germany was all about. All right, real quick, as you can see, the Hun is bowing down. You can tell it's the Hun because of the helmet, right? The point on it, right? Anyway, he's bowing down. He's kind of accepting defeat, isn't he? Yeah, what about his sword? What do you notice about his sword? Matty Weitzel, what do you see about his sword? Is it a sharp, nice looking sword? Is that going to help him in battle? No, it's broken, isn't it? Yeah. So when you think about the German culture, right? German nationalism. It's no longer there, right? Their military is, well, broken, right? There's no way that they can continue to fight, right? And again, this is what Germany's made out, right? They were built on what and what? What were they built on, huh? Jason? Blood and iron, right? Warfare. Okay, and now it's not there, right? Now it's gone. So as you can see here too, the flags of the Allied powers. I know there's a lot of them up there. There's probably some that you probably don't really recognize, but right, these are the Allied powers, their flags hovering over top of Germany, a defeated Germany. In the background, you can see the smoke, right? You can see the destruction of World War I. And I think that's a really good political cartoon emphasizing the end of World War I. Anyway, do you think this German Hun's just going to sit down forever? Do you think he's going to bow down forever? No. Now, we all know that eventually, through heightened nationalism, right, Germany's going to rise up again. So real quick, when this war comes to an end, right, we see it November 11th, 1918. And that's where, again, Germany signs this ceasefire, right, the ending of World War I in the Compiègne Wagon, right? This happens in France. It's very close to Paris, actually. So Germany surrenders. But real quick, one thing to note about this ending of the war, some of the German generals couldn't accept it, right? Germany at this point, I know they're somewhat new, right? They just unified. They can't accept defeat. They can't. So even after this armistice on November 11th, 1918, a lot of the German troops continue to fight. The Allied powers are saying, hey, it's over. We signed an armistice, right? It's over with. But a lot of the German troops can't accept it. Right, a lot of the troops want to be over with, but the generals, they continue to push this on. All right. You guys ever watched the movie All Quiet on the Western Front? They're at the end of it, they kind of explain this, right? They show that they can't accept it, they continue to fight, even though the armistice is already signed. Right? It just goes to show that the extreme nationalism for a lot of these German generals, the extreme pride that they have in their country. And even though the war's over, we all know that it could crack at any moment, at any time afterwards. So we'll mention more about this. All right, real quick. So on the 11th hour, the 11th day, the 11th month, easy way to remember it, right? Easy way. All these 11s there. On 1918, we see the ending of the war, right? Here's a rail car. Again, after they sign this and comprehend, they will take the rail car and put it in a museum to try to symbolize the end of World War One. Like I mentioned, this has a lot of history to it. So when we get to the start of World War II, 2 chapters from now, well, you'll see that rail car again, right? You'll see how this comes and emerges, and well, Hitler's gonna try to get in the last lap, right? That rail car is no longer here. We all know the Nazis get defeated. So in the last chapter, they try to break this thing down, melt some of the metal down and make ammunition, bullets, armaments out of it. So that rail car is not there anymore. They made a replica of it, so nothing interesting about it. All right, real quick, last thing, the big four. So the big four come to me here in Europe, right? And just make sure you guys know the big four. I had it as a term, but I just added in the slide so you guys can write these 4 members down. Right, you got David Lloyd George, he's Prime Minister of England, right? So obviously he's gonna be there. Vittorio Orlando of Italy, guess what? You remember they started with the Triple Alliance and then they end the war with the Allied powers. So they're there because they're on the winning side. Right? They don't get a lot from this. I want to make sure you guys know that. Italy actually does not get anything really from the ending of this war. Even though they're on the victor's side, they are kind of pushed to the side here. They're like, yeah, sure, you jump ship. Remember? We're not going to give that to a front runner, huh? You think that's going to anger Italy in the future? Oh yeah. All right, then we got George Clemenceau from France. Obviously, he's going to be in that. Guess what? This is the guy, and even David Lloyd George, that are gonna push for the harsh treatment of Germany with the Treaty of Versailles, right? He's gonna push, these 2 guys are gonna really push to burden Germany forever, so that they can never rise from the ashes. But what's that gonna do? Only fuel more, right? That's only going to anger Germany more. We'll mention about this here soon. And finally, we got Woodrow Wilson. Like I mentioned, Woodrow Wilson had a stroke shortly before this, right? He wasn't in the right mindset. So actually, his wife was making a lot of the deals here. His wife was making a lot of the decisions for the United States towards the end of the war. And think about it, is that an elected official, his wife? No, Woodrow Wilson was. In other words, this was going down a strange path. And maybe, just maybe, if he was in the right mindset, we wouldn't see World War II. No. All right, guys, tomorrow we're going to talk more about this Treaty of Versailles. Okay, and on Wednesday, like I said, I'm going to have an assignment for you. Real quick, Eli, you stay here with your iPad. I want to send a link to you to make sure you're on this. Okay, all right. Don't seem too happy about it. All right, anyway, so Thursday and then Friday, I'm gonna put out your study guide. Vocab will be finished by then. You can turn it in, and then you can please look at the book. Hey, Chris, tomorrow, don't forget. See you.